It's now time for the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. Mike brings you great guests and interesting people from all across the globe. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another great episode of the Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, Deezer, Stitcher, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful novelist, playwright, and actor who was raised on the Mexican border in Texas, now living in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been there since 1994. He's got 4 books out, starting with The Dog's Barking, Ye Shall Be Gods, The ID Paradox, and a brand new book he'll be talking about, Song of the Forsaken. He's also an actor as well, too. He appeared on Matlock, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, The Confession on Hallmark Channel. He's also been featured in New York's New Reader, South Charlotte Lifestyle, and more. And he also wrote some plays as well, too. And of course, he has a really interesting story talking about the upbringing. It's very riveting, and you'll be amazed to hear about that. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina, and not too far from where we are at. So, live, ladies and gentlemen, the very multi-talented Jan Notzon. Jan, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on. So you're a novelist, playwright, and an actor. You were born and raised on the Mexican border in Texas. You're now in Charlotte, North Carolina. You've been there since 1994. You've got 4 books out, starting off with The Dog's Barking and Ye Shall Be Gods, The ID Paradox. We'll also be talking about your new book, Song for the Forsaken. You also appeared on Matlock, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, The Confession on Hallmark Channel. And, of course, you also wrote some plays as well, too. You got a very interesting story. And before we get to all that, tell us how you got started.
How I got started, well, with acting was when I was 9 years old. My father wanted to watch something on television, which was interesting because he never wanted to watch television. But it was a production of Macbeth. Why it was on television, I have no idea, but I was just transfixed. And from that point on, I wanted to be an actor, and found out later that it was actually in the blood because my grandfather, my father's father, wanted to be a professional actor, and that was frowned upon at that time. So he became a banker and started the Laredo, Texas Little Theater.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I actually the project I'm working on now is a fictionalized version of my father's family's immigration from Poland in the 19th century.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's really taxing on the imagination because, history is written about kings and princes and ideologies and all of that kind of thing, and people who were just trying to get by and support their children really kind of pass unnoticed. So there's not much information, so I'm having to really tax that old imagination to get this thing done.
Mm-hmm. And what was that one? And of course, we talked about the one precise moment that influenced you to get into acting. And how about writing as well, too? What's that one moment that influenced you into becoming a writer or a novelist?
I don't know that there was a particular moment, Mike. Honestly, I just had these scenes in my mind when I was in acting school at HB Studio in New York. The scenes would come to me, and I finally got around to writing some of them down, and they developed into plays eventually. And I wrote a play for voices, and that was The Dogs Barking. It was a play for a project that some friends of mine did called Actors Seen Unseen. It was a copy of the old radio dramas, but they did it online. And I wrote this play for that with just voices, would require 10 actors. And when I looked at it, I thought, well, that would, all I'd need to do is add narrative and I'd have a novel. So that's how The Dogs Barking came about.
Wow, that is amazing. And it's the gripping coming-of-age story of Jason Kelly, the demons of his upbringing in backwater Mexican boy in the 1950s and desperate search for fulfillment. And, of course, it sounds like something that's really, really riveting, and maybe just a bit more about The Dogs Barking. And of course, what was it like back in the 50s and how they managed to overcome?
Well, the 1950s were an interesting time, very conformist, and the Catholic Church at that time, this young man goes to Catholic schools until he graduates from high school, and Catholic school, especially in the 50s, was incredibly conservative, and religious people's word was law, was absolute truth. And, some of the things that he comes to believe as a result of that ideology, that philosophy of religion, really do him a certain amount of damage that he has to work out through the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on to, after that, to university life and the wild-eyed, rebellious 60s. So, everything is turned on its head. Everything he had come to accept as absolute truth was all of a sudden questioned and discarded, and it's the only thing that saved him at that point was there was a kind of ideological family that replaced his own estranged one. And this promise of coming utopia that, we were all sure back in the 60s was going to happen. Eventually, it turned, that kind of idealistic fervor turned into what Jackson Browne calls the resignation that living brings. And so our hero has to find something new to fill that aching emptiness in him, and he heads for New York to be an actor, and with visions of fame and fortune.
Mm-hmm.
And there, those dreams are frustrated mostly by his, because of his upbringing, he is very defensive, and takes every criticism or suggestion even as an attack, and so that really kind of poisons his ability to make his way in the acting world. And so finally he realizes after a time that he just cannot, he never felt at home in New York City. New York City is, if you're into constant stimulation, it's wonderful. But if you need quiet and serenity, it's just mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever been there or ever lived there, but, it is just constant stimulation.
Mm-hmm. I have some friends that live up in New York, New Jersey area, and they keep asking me to come over. And, that's one of the places I've got on my bucket list as well, too. And, of course, we'll be, before we talk about your next book, And Ye Shall Be Gods, but first listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today. 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with novelist and playwright and actor Jan Notzon here on the Mike Wagner Show. He was raised on the Mexican border in Texas, now living in Charlotte, North Carolina since 1994. We talked about his first book, Song for the Forsaken, and he also followed up with another book called And Ye Shall Be as Gods. And tell us more about that book.
Well, that's actually based on a snippet from Genesis, where the serpent promises Eve that if she eats of the forbidden fruit, that she will be as powerful as God. She will be a god herself, and it's really a very complex story. It involves a young man who has a younger adopted sister who is a virtuoso on the violin, and she just, for some reason, gives up. And she was always agoraphobic. She had a horrible trauma in her childhood. But something has caused her to just give up completely. She won't play anymore. She won't do anything anymore. And he's trying to figure out what on earth could have caused this. Who could have said this horrible thing that Grace, that was her name, Grace is a walking mistake. He tries to figure out, and she won't tell him. She won't say. So he has already given up from a horrible experience. He's given up his job as a public defender, and he has gone to just to move away, get out of Texas, and find some new horizons. He moves to New York and decides to be a teacher. While he's there, some of his students put him in the hospital.
Oh.
And basically, he is experiencing evil. He is put in the hospital sharing a room with a survivor of the Holocaust. And the survivor tells him the story. He won't tell any of his family. He can't. But he tells Jake Kaczmarek, the protagonist. And, he goes into that, and he dies there with Jake holding his hand to try to help him onto the next plane of existence, whatever that may be. And Jake also has a girlfriend who is in a state mental hospital in Austin, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Some horrible trauma she went through, and she's in a catatonic state and will not talk. So Jake finally decides that he's going to have to go back to Agua Agria, which is the little town where he's from in Texas, to see what he can try to figure out about what is ailing his baby sister. In the meantime, he goes to the state mental hospital in Austin, and he finally gets his girlfriend to say one word, and it's Lampenschirm, and he wonders what on earth. That's German for lampshade.
Lampshade, interesting.
The lampshade, yeah. And if you know what the Nazis did to make their lampshades in the prisoner camps, the concentration camps, then you might know what that refers to. But anyway, he goes, he goes back and sees his little sister Grace and asks her, because her German is better than his, and he says, "What does Lampenschirm mean?" And she says, "Lampshade." Why? Finally, he has to confess that it was his girlfriend and her best friend, Dolores Martinez, who said the word, and that she immediately knows what that refers to, and she just collapses. And so now he's got two people in those states. But he goes to his girlfriend's father, Dennis Martinez, and convinces him, who is dying of cancer, and convinces him to go up to Austin and see his daughter. And there is a tremendous reunion, and then we find out why Dolores is in this horrendous state. And I don't want to give that away because I don't want to take that away from the reader.
We understand that. And there's one question that just came to mind here. And for those who don't understand the story about the lampshade and the Holocaust, what was the actual connection between the lampshade and the Holocaust?
The Nazis made lampshades in the prison camps out of their Jews' skins.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Talk about evil. This is all about the nature of evil.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I was just thinking about this, too. Did you by any chance watch Schindler's List when it first came out, or it came on Made TV, directed by Steven Spielberg?
I watched it, Mike, and I was speechless I went with a friend, a female friend, and we couldn't even talk to each other while I drove her back home. We were just completely devastated by that movie.
I was watching that too, and of course, they're just stripped of everything, and I said to myself, how could they go through that? And when you talked about, lampshades and connected to the Holocaust, it just made me understand, what the conditions they go through as well, too. And we'll also talk about your other book as well, too, called The ID Paradox, and how all your books just come together. But first, listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and more. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with novelist and playwright and actor Jan Notzon here on The Mike Wagner Show. We talked about his first two books, Song for the Forsaken, also the other book, And Ye Shall Be as Gods, and talking about going the tale, what happened with the Holocaust, and continuing on with the ID paradox. Jake Kaczmarek is back once again. You can just tell us more about it in this third of four books you have out.
Well, actually, first of all, it's the id paradox.
Id paradox. I'm sorry, I didn't. I forgot to ask that once. I thought it said ID. It's the id. Okay, I correct myself. I'm sorry.
No, please. I could kick myself for not thinking to ask the design lower class lettering. That was my bad, and since then I've lost his address, so I haven't been able to make that correction.
Okay. Now I see it on the website. It's id paradox, which it looks like a capital I but a small d. It's like, now I get the connection. Okay, so all right, so let's talk about the id paradox as well too. And Jake Kaczmarek is back in the fold on this one.
Yes, actually, these started out as one story, intertwining, and then I looked. I was looking at submitting them to publishing companies, and they said they wanted something with, 60 to 85,000 words. Mm-hmm. And I looked at the total for what I was writing then, and it was like 154,000 words.
Wow.
So I thought, well, I can make this into two novels, and that'll be a lot better, and that's the way it worked out. The id paradox, it's important. The title is important because it's about that primitive part of us that gets us into so much trouble. The id, the reptilian part of our brains, the fight, flight, or freeze part of our body, of our brains, the way our brains function. The amygdala, actually, is the seat of this particular quick-reacting part of our brains that doesn't consider, doesn't contemplate. It just reacts. And it concerns three friends, Jake, Artie, and Connors, and but it focuses on the relationship between Jake and Artie. It's kind of a big brother, little brother relationship. Mm-hmm. And when they graduate from high school, they treat themselves to a canoe trip in the Big Bend down the Rio Grande. Of course, it's June, and nobody but these three testosterone-poisoned kids would be out in West Texas in June.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine that.
110 in the shade, wind blowing, drying out everything. But what they have, they run into rapids and lose everything. Mm. And, they're isolated. There's no one else around. All of their supplies are gone. And, it just, the stress just builds and builds, as they go along. And it comes to a point where something happens, and Jake realizes the ability in himself to kill.
Oh, wow.
And he cannot abide it. He cannot have that knowledge within himself. It's just and the rest of at least the first half of the book is about him trying to come to terms with that knowledge. But what happens to Artie is 1,000 times worse.
Oh, wow.
The three guys hatch a plot to sneak Artie's uncle and his uncle's family across the border into Texas from Mexico, because his uncle has been forced to work for a drug cartel, and he's getting deeper and deeper into it. Unfortunately, the attempt fails, and Artie is taken prisoner, tortured, and left for dead, and somehow winds up in a Mexican prison down in central Mexico. And Connors, who is now Attorney General of Texas, has found out that he is alive and in that prison, and they hatch a plot to break him out, which involves, payoffs, not helicopters and SEAL team heroism, which Jake Kaczmarek would never be able to do. He's just not that kind of character. But they get him out, but his spirit is just destroyed. I mean, the conditions that he's been through, the torture, the conditions in the prison are just unimaginably horrible. And he suffers from tremendous PTSD. And the second part of the novel is about their efforts with the help of a psychiatrist to try to piece his spirit back together somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And Jake, Jake is instrumental in that effort and learns an awful lot about post-traumatic stress disorder and the psyche, and the psychiatrist who is treating Artie is actually a survivor of gang rape herself. So,
wow, amazing! It's like you had in the second story, became friends and helped out by a survivor of the Holocaust, and now it's like he's being helped out by a survivor of a Mexican gang. And do you think, surviving the Holocaust and survival of the Mexican gang, it's like, how in ways do you think they're like almost similar or tied in? It sounds like it's just going through those. It's like, I'm at a loss of words in this one.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. I don't shy away from intense ideas and happenstances, but I would say nothing compares to having been in a German prisoner concentration camp during World War II. It's what Artie went through is unimaginably horrible, but I can't even compare it to what the prisoners in concentration camps during World War II went through.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you got a story to tell you as well, too. We'll talk about Song for the Forsaken in just a minute, along with your career. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and more. Take the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with author, novelist, and playwright and actor Jan Notzon here on the Mike Wagner Show. He was raised on the Mexican border in Texas. Now, he's been living in Charlotte, North Carolina since 1994. We talked about his first three books, Song for the Forsaken, The Id Paradox, and Ye Shall Be Gods. And, actually, Song for the Forsaken we'll be talking about next. He wrote The Dogs Barking, earlier as well, too. And you've been raised on the Mexican border in Texas, and you came to Charlotte. So tell us about your journey being on the Mexican border in Texas and going to Charlotte.
Oh, boy. Well, it was via New York. I went to New York to be an actor. So the dog's barking. As long as you don't tell my family, it's actually autobiographical. But it was, I went to New York after college. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin. And went to New York and stood it as long as I could. And that's the greatest city in the world, no question. But it's not for everyone, you know. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't hack it. So I got an opportunity to go to graduate school at the University of South Carolina. Okay. And found that I was working more as an actor in the Carolinas than I ever worked in New York. But I was going up to Charlotte often for auditions, and eventually I just moved up here.
Interesting. You also appeared on Matlock, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and the Confession Hallmark Channel. You can tell us about some of those.
Well, the Matlock was a lot of fun because I got to work with Andy Griffith, and he is everything you'd think he'd be. He's an incredible tease. This gal from The Office would come down with a message, and she was a real Southern gal. And he would tease her. He says, "Oh, Rose. Hello, Rose. Thank you, Rose."
I can imagine. It's like I remember watching Matlock, and I remember watching Andy Griffith on the Andy Griffith Show, and I thought to myself, man, what charm in that guy. Andy Griffith, he's fantastic.
Yeah. It was great working with him and all the other people on the show. Mm-hmm. The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles was, I was in the bookends, the part with Old Indy, and I was a real short-tempered IT guy, and Old Indy was trying to get me to help him, and I wanted to just hang around all the young, beautiful girls in the class. So that's what that was about. That was fun too. And, it was not as involved as Matlock. Mm-hmm. And Beverly Lewis, The Confession, was I played a doctor who was telling Sherry Stringfield was the actress. I was telling her that she was actually going to die of cancer. Ooh. Which was, it was a very touching scene. And Sherry Stringfield and Adrian Paul were the two stars, and I worked with both of them because they were both there to get the bad news. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And of course, just, a couple of things here. Who are some of your favorite actors and actresses growing up, and who are some of your favorite writers?
My favorite writer is William Shakespeare. But my favorite novelist, I think, is John Steinbeck. His novel, East of Eden, is just an extraordinary work. I have to read that every few years, reread it every few years, because it's just so astonishingly full of wisdom. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. And it does sound incredible as well, too. And I wasn't sure if I asked this question, who are some of your favorite actors and actresses growing up? I think I might have asked it, and if I did, I apologize. But how about some of your favorite movies as well, too, that you enjoy growing up in TV shows?
Well, Mike, you did ask me about actors, and Marlon Brando. Growing up, my father loved Laurence Olivier, so of course I had to follow in my father's footsteps and love Laurence Olivier. And, he's an incredibly creative actor. I go more for the Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, Al Pacino, the more organic actors.
Mm-hmm.
And two of the things I got to do on stage, which outside of my writing, I got to play Otto Frank in The Diary of Anne Frank, Anne's father. And that was just an extraordinary experience. We as a cast were just so tight, we became a family. And that's the closest I've come to having a family of my own.
Wow. That is something. Yeah, and of course, this will segue into your latest book too, your most powerful song for the Forsaken. It's basically telling a story of two sisters. Mandy McDaniel has grown up with an alcoholic father, and mother lost her own religious world, and young mountain woman's fight to make sense of life, faith, and everything else, and living in Appalachia as well too. And tell us more about the book, Son of Forsaken, and what the struggles are, and how this all starts to come together.
Well, that came about when I was in graduate school, actually, and a young actress, freshman. I was a graduate student, and she was rather taken with me and said she wanted me to write a play for her and one of my fellow MFA candidates. And she was, at that time, I was a rabid atheist, and she was a dedicated born-again Christian. And so I wrote this novel about a woman who loses her faith. I just sat down and thought, well, if I were going to write a play for these two girls, what would I write? And that's what came out. Neither of them was in the production, but it deals with faith and fundamentalism and the fundamentalist mindset, which is a book I read actually that informs the novel quite a bit and the play. And these two sisters, they're dirt poor Appalachian sisters who have, the older one, Mandy, has raised the younger one, Sorrel, and she's coming back. Mandy is coming back from the hospice where she spent the last few months of her mother's life with her, and she's coming back and with a horrible secret. And the one thing she has in life, the only thing she has left, is her little sister Sorrel, mm-hmm. who idolizes her. Mandy is the font of wisdom for Sorrel, and everything she believes has come from Mandy. And when she realizes that Mandy has lost her faith and really rejected it out of, seeing her mother suffer and her mother lose her faith while she's dying in this hospice, she's just completely rejected the faith. So the conflict there, Sorrel has to have Mandy, but she has to have her religion, because the religion was the cement that kept their relationship together, that held them together.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can't tell you how it turns out, but actually there's another Well, I go into a lot of the history, what made her grandfather preacher, who is this very fundamentalist Christian, how he came to be the way he is, and the experiences he's had, and how that affected his daughter, who is Mandy's mother, and made her just without an ability to think for herself. Mandy's mother, I'm talking about, and so she really kind of just withdraws from the world into her little religious world, and Mandy basically raises herself, survives finding food anywhere she can, and so she's quite handy at survival. And the final scene is explosive, where Mandy and Sorrel try to work out their differences.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we encourage everybody to read the book as well, too. And where can people find your books at?
They can certainly go to my website, which is jannotzon.com. You can find them on Amazon, on barnesandnoble.com. You can find them at Park Road Books here in Charlotte, which is the only independent bookstore in Charlotte. And you can always order it from your local bookstore.
Okay. All right.
Or any one of them.
All right. We will so do so. And we're here with Jan Notzon, novelist, playwright, and actor here on the Mike Wagner Show. Talked about his books, The Dog's Barking, The Id Paradox, Song for the Forsaken, and Ye Shall Be Gods, and more. Just a couple of minutes right here. We'd love to have you back on, Jan. You've been fantastic. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Boy, that's a good question. My father, I would say. He was a remarkable man. He had all of the tendency toward depression that I have, and anxiety, and he dealt with it by just sheer personal force. It was really extraordinary. As I came to realize in my adulthood, I would say my father, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
As a writer?
It can be either or. Mainly a writer and going to actor, or just best advice in general. Take your pick.
Well, if you enjoy writing, write. If you don't. If it's a hassle, don't do it. Acting, I remember an acting teacher telling me, do it as long as you enjoy it. And if you stop enjoying it, do something else. Mm-hmm. That would be my advice.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing that came to mind as well, too, since you've been in TV and stage and everything as well, too. What do you consider your funniest moment on stage you had? Or an
funniest
acting?
Moment?
Yes.
Oh, golly. Boy, you've got me there, Mike. I can't point to the funny. Well, one time when I was doing a staged reading, and the person had memorized their lines for a staged reading and just completely forgot where they were. That was that was quite a deal. It involved a lot of improvisation.
I think I do the same thing, too. It's just like you just say, cut, next.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that was just great. Jan, just want to say a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to hearing you again soon. Jan Notzon, novelist, playwright, and actor, with his new book, Song for the Forsaken, here on the Mike Wagner Show. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects, what's your website, how do people contact you, and where can people purchase your books?
Again, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, my website, jannotzon.com. And, you can order it at your local bookstore if you like to do things that way. And let's see, what else were you asking me?
It's how they contact you and what's your website. I think I got those.
Well, the website is jannotzon.com, JANNOTZON.com. And they can always email me there.
Great. Okay, we will do so. And Jan, just want to say a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Your stories were just amazing. I'm ready to go purchase them. Looking forward to having you again soon. And do us a favor, keep this up to date. We love you having back in 2020, sometime 2020 and beyond.
That would be great, Mike. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube, Anchor FM, Radio Public, and themikewagnershow.com. Please support our program with your donations at themikewagnershow.com. Join us again next time for another great episode of The Mike Wagner Show.